I give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck? Why do I try so hard? Why do I care so much?
Welcome to Why Do I Give a Fuck? A cross-cultural conversation between myself, Diane Tate,
and Johanna Thompson. In these times of great struggle and possible shift, we ask ourselves,
why do we give a fuck about any of it? How does the lens we see the world through impact what we see?
And what do we do about it?
Happy New Year! First, let me put on my...
Oh, yeah.
Not even blowing.
Oh, it didn't even...
Happy New Year.
You know what? That sums up this year. Right there.
Absolutely does. I'm so happy to be bringing in 2026. I really, really am.
It can't get here fast enough.
It cannot get here fast enough, and it'll be here, in just a moment. We'll be doing all kinds of celebrations together. So I'm excited about that.
I know.
We're going to be joining love. So that's going to be very, very exciting. And I'm thinking, let's have a conversation about not so much New Year's resolutions, but let's have a conversation about reimagining what 2026 can look like for us, as within our own worlds, but then on a global scale, because there's so many things that are going on, and we're ready for reimagining and seeing something different. So what are some of the things that you're giving a fuck about in regards
Amen to everything you just said. Yeah, reimagining. I mean, I think it's been some time for me since I did the whole New Year's resolution thing, because you say those things and then do you follow through? That it always seemed to be felt like a point of failure. I set all these goals for myself and then I don't do them. So for me, I think I'm thinking more globally. I'm thinking more outside. It's not necessarily just what I want to set as personal goals, but what do I want? What do I want to see the world turn into? And then what is going to be my part in that transformation? So those are the things that I'm kind of thinking of as we reimagine into this new year. And I think you and I were talking about this. I think my top priority thing for me is to continue what I've already started in this year, which is just really purposeful, intentional decolonization of my mind, of my life as much as I can. We're all knee deep in this capitalistic society. So, and I connect capitalism very directly and deeply to colonization, especially as it manifests today. So that's kind of the top of the list for me. So.
Well, capitalism is always an interesting conversation to have. And I'm curious to hear, what the intersection that you see and experience as capitalism and colonization and hierarchical white supremacy, and thinking about how all of those things, and anti-Blackness, all of those things that kind of fall together. And there's this outlying conversation about capitalism imploding and falling on itself and collapsing. And as I am seeing a technological shift, I'm thinking that capitalism is just entering into a new age and way of being delineated across a kind of a global community rather than more kind of national communities. The conversation that we can have now and the way that we are distributing resources, we are much more connected to being able to see that because of what technology brought into the world. So talk to me about it. I want to know about what is your work towards decolonizing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my decolonization, I feel like my personal I've said on these episodes many times, I talk about my awakening. And for me, my awakening started back in 2015 when I really started to deconstruct my own white supremacy, my capitulation in it, my role in perpetuating it. And that led to a deeper understanding and unpacking of the anti-Blackness that I saw at the time I was living in Charleston, South Carolina, which is the portal of anti-Blackness. And so starting to uncover and like open up my eyes to those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it, kind of thing. And then, so fast forward 10 years, where I feel like I've gone now, especially in the past 2 years since October 7th, and we see, the decimation of Gaza and the Palestinian people, and my awakening to Zionism and to the intersectionality between Zionism and white supremacy, and how that is all interconnected, and how that plays into the expansion and the expansion of empire. I guess I'll finish that statement, and then the erosion of anything that stands in empire's way. That all becomes part of my decolonization. So, I have, in terms of resources and who I've been learning from, I wanted to offer a couple of folks that I've been learning from. One is, and we've talked about her on here before, one is Miss Amanda Seals. I am a very proud member of the SEAL Squad, which is her group of folks on Patreon. And so I have learned a lot from her as I watch her. She's been very vocal about her own internalization, decolonization practice, and then how that connects to Zionism, and how that connects to white supremacy, and how that connects to anti-Blackness, and how that connects to, connects. And so she's one I've been learning from. And then I also wanted to offer this other content creator that I've been learning from. Her name is Monty Mader. And what's really unique about her, she's a white woman she lives in Tennessee. She comes from a background. She grew up in the deeply fundamentalist Christian church. And so she has been unpacking, and she calls deconstructing, her Christian fundamentalist, Christian Zionist mindset. But she grew up, she knows the Bible backwards and forwards, and is able to speak into, she does classes on Patreon, deconstructing the Bible and talking about what the typical phrases and the typical scriptures that people like to use as weapons when they want to justify genocide or destruction of entire communities, like transgender folks, when they want to say that gays, God didn't like homosexuals and all that stuff, the scriptures that they tend to pull out to try to pinpoint that. She will deconstruct all of that. She will break it all down, talk about the scriptures, and talk about what they really meant and what their context was and all of this. So she is like, I've learned so much from her, and I know I will continue to learn from her. I just want to put their information here on the screen for those of you who are watching. So Amanda Seals is on Instagram, and she's on Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a platform where you can support content creators and support work that people are doing in a very independent of the capitalist society. So I really appreciate that. You just go to patreon.com and you can search for people that you want to support. And a lot of them offer content for free, but then the support really looks like $5 a month. It's not a lot, but if you can always do more than that, of course. Anyway, so Amanda Seals again on Instagram, and then Amanda Seals on Patreon, and then Monty Mader. She's at Monty Mader on Instagram, MonteMader. And she's also Monty Mader on Patreon. But I've been learning a lot from the two of them about connecting those dots that we were talking about, and then also deconstructing within myself the mindsets that I have around a lot of the things. So those are my plugs for my two content creators that I'm learning a lot from.
Well, I don't have any content creators. I do enjoy listening to Amanda Seals. I've never heard of Monty. But I'm not on Instagram as much anymore. So, so
Patreon is a great way. It's a great way to learn. There's a lot of times the folks will put on extra content that they don't put on. A lot of podcasts. In fact, I was going to talk to you about whether or not we needed to start a Patreon for this podcast. Yeah, so it's a way to support these folks outside of that typical capitalistic. I know Amanda Seales has gone through real heavy shadow banning on any of the socials. She's had Zionists shut down her shows. She was doing a one woman show, and they were shutting down the ticket sales, shutting down, making the venues cancel on her at the last minute. They were making it very difficult for her. So she has worked really hard to separate herself. She moved away from LA, got away from all of that, and has worked really hard to separate herself from those typical mechanisms that folks utilize because it was just too easy for them to sabotage her. And so Patreon is a way to kind of avoid that. And Monty Mader, I think, is also using those tools.
Anyway.
So
it's very interesting that you bring that up, because I'm thinking about kind of a topic of our discussion where we're reimagining like what's happening in 2026. And that brings me to, I'm really being alarmed by one of the legislations that's going through, where the administration has decided that they want to develop a department to kind of over surveil what's going on social media and what people are putting out. And I heard tell of this department is being asked to have a 30-minute response time to finding or hearing or seeing something that is presented that the administration finds is inappropriate. And that type of alarm comes from thinking about the way that technology is already existing and moving along. And those type of things really, really concern me. And I know that you wanted to share a clip about, as we're talking also about decolonization. And when we talk about decolonization, we're talking about dismantling structures that are programmed kind of political ideologies. We're talking about like the ongoing like cultural, psychological, and economic shifts. And I'm getting that definition from the way decolonization would be explained if you're looking it up on Google or something like that. We're actually talking about all of the ways that you have been programmed in your development to think about how you exist as a citizen, as you exist in the context of the nation that you live in, so where your identity is, as we exist as a part of a nation in a more global community. And because we have technology and AI that is connecting us in a different way for those folks who have access, it's really important to think about who is steering that work and what are the intentions and motivations of the people who are steering that work. And so it's important to like look at this clip that you were about to share. And I think that's a really good way to bring that up right now.
Okay. Yeah. So I saw this clip actually watching Amanda Seales' show that she does every Wednesday. She does 4 hours on it's called Amandaland Views from Amandaland on YouTube. And she showed this clip and talking about decolonization and talking about the role that AI plays. And I thought it was fascinating. So it is actually from a content creator on Instagram called Deep Curates. So that's at DEEPCURATES for those who are listening. And so they're the source of this, the origin source of this clip. So yes, I will add it to the stage here and we will take a look.
And American presidents are now speaking the same words. They are telling the same lies. We are watching the collapse of the international order in real time, and this is just the start. Coups are like concrete. When they stop moving, they set. It is already later than we think. This image, some of you in this room might know these people. I call it tech bros in hostage situations. It's a message to you. This is Putin's playbook. He allows a business elite to make untold riches in exchange for absolute loyalty. Some people are calling this oligarchy, but it's actually bigger than that. These are global platforms. It's broligarchy. There is an alignment of interests that runs through Silicon Valley to what is now a coming autocracy. It's a type of power that the world has never seen before.
I'll go ahead and end it there so that we can, in the interest of time, just keep talking.
So tell me, how were you impacted by this when you heard this clip, or what was the way that Amanda Seales was talking about it?
Oh, I'm not going to do justice what she was talking about, but yeah, just in a nutshell, the thing that really struck me was the global vision of all of these narratives. And you and I have talked about this before, in that you always need to consider the source. You always need to consider who's weaving the story, because they have a reason that they're weaving the story they're weaving. And AI has come in to our lexicon. I mean, at first it started with, oh, I can Google whatever I want and it'll pop up the information. And isn't that wonderful? And now we've gotten to a place where we can't discern, real from fiction. I was sharing, I got caught up in AI the other day because I was sharing reels from a cockatoo that supposedly named Jackson, who loves to dance to music. And I thought it was great. Turned out he's AI and I had no idea. And so, that's just a cockatoo. So it's not a big deal, but that's, it feels like another level for me of being able to show us that information is supposedly true and we just swallow it without even thinking about it. And these are the folks that are running that narrative platform, that propaganda machine, because that's what AI has becoming. When she said that coups are like cement or concrete, when they stop moving, they set. I don't know. That really impacted me, because I think of a coup. I was taught growing up that coups were bad. I was taught that coups always meant that somebody was coming in and dismantling the government that the people decided they wanted. And that, I have such a different mindset of coups now. And that that coups are they're an act of resistance, and they are the way often that the oppressed peoples that are not being listened to by their government have an opportunity to rise up and say, hell no, we're taking back control. And so
in some instances,
they can still be bad things too. Yes, I'm not saying they're all good, but I'm just mindful of the fact that I had no awareness back when I was younger and in my 20s and 30s and 40s, and that coups could be an agent of change for the good and not necessarily for the bad. I was always taught they were bad. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's the thing that came.
No, but what it did is created a curiosity as always, because if we're thinking about, when you're talking about a coup, or I'm in the context of the person on the video talking about the coup being set in cement, and the coup, I'm curious, is the coup to the broligarchy that she referenced, and the autocracy that our world is seated in. And the difference with this, as we're thinking about 2026, is that it wouldn't just be a coup of human. It's a coup of technology and AI. And I'm thinking about like this narrative that's going around that Elon Musk is having nightmares at this point in time. And he's speaking openly about the nightmares he's having, because he's saying that the technology that they're creating is getting beyond their control. It's already beyond their control. And with the technology being out of human control for those who planted the seeds of the evolution of the technology, that is where those who planted the seeds are having concern, and those of us who might not have and don't have the same amount of accessibility to the new tool, the technological tool, in 2026 and going forward, the word that they're using is future proofing. And what does future proofing look like? And how do we make sure that future proofing has an equitable playing field? And one of the places that this is happening, and so there's kind of this internal struggle, which is what capitalism causes, besides all of the hierarchical racism that it leads foundation for, it
Mhm.
also is an internal struggle because, especially coming from a privileged place, being on US territory, we like having access to the things that we like having access to. We like our luxury. We like that a majority of us, compared to the larger global community, live in houses. We have a huge homeless population of unhoused humans, but not as many as other global communities have, of people not having like what we take for granted in the United
Right.
States. And
Right.
so, and as that's also happening, we are experiencing in the United States this issue around immigration, because the United States is not populated in the same way. The demographics are shifting, and that is
Mhm.
making white people, which is why there's this move to make America again. That is code language for make America white led and run again. And the powers that are still be are those who hold Zionist belief, who hold fundamental Christian belief, who hold this broligarchy belief system that technology is the thing that's ruling, and technology is getting out of control. So we have this. We're sitting in the chaos of capitalism,
Mhm.
the chaos that it causes. And when chaos exists, it's easy for people to then guide you into your belief system, because then you're
Yeah.
going to be thinking, because you're in chaos, you're going to be, we're typical, it's demonstrative of humans to start looking at faith to like try to give them some balance. It's demonstrative of humans to start looking at those who they consider to be in power to look at, to give direction, because the masses most of the time are followers. The thing that I'm finding that is really fascinating is that the typical narrative is being challenged by the AI, because the way that the AI is aggregating the data. So like when you see content creators, since we're talking about content creators, ask questions of AI. If you were choosing to come down to earth, which race of people would you choose to want to be? And then the AI starts to give this whole entire um, conversation about how coming to Earth as a human would be best if you came as a Black identified human, because of blah 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 blah. And then then other people being very frustrated, angry at the AI for that, or discrediting the AI for not having or being able to aggregate the whole data. And so I'm thinking about, like, what is this challenge that we're going to have between what our belief systems are and how the data is being aggregated, and how the folks that have created the data are telling us now that AI is uncontrollable. And we can't, to your point, differentiate between what is actually true data that's being aggregated and data that is being aggregated from the false narratives that exist, and people continuing to feed in information to this technological tool. It's really
Right.
like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say you froze a little bit when you started talking about white people. So this is the gremlins. You know, they must be listening. 'Cause it should, there should,
Hello.
you
Always
didn't, you,
listening.
you didn't freeze for that long, so we didn't miss any nuggets. But I just thought it was funny. As soon as you started talking about white people getting nervous, you froze. So yeah, we know you listened.
Are you white, AI? Are you white?
I know. Well, it's funny because, you know, what came up for me in listening to you just now is that I don't trust AI, because AI is created by the people who have a propaganda agenda to sell. So, and they're feeding the information. This, you know, AI doesn't just get their information from above. You know, it's somebody's got to put this information in. And yes, it has the ability to aggregate things maybe differently, and maybe sometimes better than humans can do. I just don't. I don't. It's another source for me of just mistrust because of who's running it and who's, and not to say that it's uncontrollable. I think they do have control of it, and I think it's just too easy for them to push whatever narrative they want to push for us to learn. Because you're right, when humans feel a sense of untetheredness to how to control their lives, they will reach, we will reach for anything that feels like a solid lifeline to hold on to. And And so we tend to turn to systems of faith and systems of power, especially familiar systems. I think we've talked about before about, you know, in abusive relationships, and I know of this because this was my experience. You tend to stay with what's familiar, even if it's toxic, because it's familiar. There's a sense of comfort that comes from the familiar. That's why it tends to take people so long to get out of abusive situations. You know, there are many, many factors, but one of them, I believe, for me especially, was that it was familiar and the unknown was scary. So yeah, it's so multi-leveled, and I think the key component to all of this for us is to make sure that we're always questioning, and we're always researching, and we're always looking for disparate views, and we're trying to find community where we can challenge ourselves, be challenged by others. You know, we can't just swallow information because it's coming from a person that makes us feel good, you know. And I think that there's a personal intention there that I want to encourage everybody out there that's listening to really consider as you walk into this if decolonization is something that you want to imagine for yourself and reimagine for yourself in 2026.
And I also would challenge us to have this understanding of future proofing. Say that 3 times.
Future proofing.
Also,
I know.
Future proofing, so that we can understand the difference between like artificial intelligence and what's being fed. Because my understanding of artificial intelligence and the way that data is being aggregated, it's about what is being fed into the algorithms, what's being fed into the information. And yes, there's shadow banning, and yes, things can be recreated. We've always had the opportunity to do that, but there's also more people feeding information into the data. And I think when the broligarchy starts talking about they don't have control, is that there's going to be more than one narrative that you're going to have access to, and more than one narrative that you're going to get information about. And that, I think, is like going to be critical in us thinking about our global narratives at this point, because it's not even national narratives, because we're hearing from and we're seeing what's going on across the globe. And that is going to definitely shift the way that we can imagine our coexistence together, and our coexistence in relation to the technology and the AI that we are feeding the information into, and that we are then helping to evolve as it processes and begins to evolve in and of itself.
Yeah, you had brought a video, another clip to my attention. I had not seen this before. Do you want to show that real quick, and then we can
because we're coming close to time. I think that this is an opportunity for us to continue this discussion into 2026, and like to really like dive deep into our understanding of like AI and how it's going to be impacting, and the ways that we can use it to help with the decolonization of our mind. Because I do think that the tools that we have accessibility to, we should figure out how to use them for good, which has always been the strategy, because the things are going to exist. And for those of us who are less resourced, I feel that it's really important that we have access to be able to make the resources work for us. And a lot of us are going to be in the same position of being less resourced. Folks who don't typically experience themselves as that, because of the technology and because of the wealth gap and because of the way things are being broken down. When you're looking at hierarchical structures of power, there's more of us that are falling into the bottom rung and less people that are falling into the top of the triangle. And so you're going to see a lot more coups. You're going to see a lot more resistance, because there's a larger demographic of human beings that are being impacted. And then we have what we have not had before in in our lifetime is technology, because I do believe and know that, thanks to the data, know that this technology that we didn't have control over was accessible to humans. When you're looking at antiquity, when you're looking at the ways that technology worked in ancient times in Egypt and all of those things, there was a technology that we don't have access to that information just yet, but I believe that that information is going to be evolved because it is being aggregated. And how do we make sure that we are future proofing in a way that we can decolonize our minds from what we are used, the ways that we're used to taking in and determining the information that helps us to exist in our most effective way as humans.
Listening to you relate that, I'm curious if you and I have a different outlook on how much input or impact we have as regular humans to these systems.
You keep on saying regular. I am not. You said this on our first. I am their regular human.
I'm sorry. I just mean, we're not regular. None of us are. But I guess I'm using that as a qualifier to kind of separate us humans that are just living our lives every day and doing the thing versus people in like immense power. So I guess that's how I'm using that as a qualifier to try to separate.
Without as much power as others.
Sorry, say it again.
Humans without as much power as others, but regular.
Okay. Humans without as much power as others. Thank you. Yes. All right. No more regular. I won't say that.
No, you can't regular people.
No, you're right. I don't know. I guess I wonder if the AI picture that you're painting, or at least what I'm hearing from you, is something that we can hopefully get to after we tear down some of the systems that are in place, separating the humans that have less power from the humans that have more power. Because I don't know if we're there yet.
We are there, because the AI exists and it already exists within these structures, and it was created within these structures. So it's like, how are we using the AI to dismantle those structures? Because there is a role for AI in that. And the role that I'm seeing in AI is that when we're talking about AI, we're not talking about, I want to make the distinction between, going on a social media app and an AI creating something that is not real and saying, oh, let's exist in this utopia. The benefit of that is like any form of art or any form of fiction book or some that helps us to expand our imaginations. So I appreciate that part of AI, like as a fun tool to play on. Oh, I can look like this, I can be like this, whatever, all of those type of things. But I'm also then making the distinction about the AI that's aggregating data that challenges the narratives that have kept us in oppressive structures and experiences. So like, when you put something into the computer to query, you are asking the AI, or when I am engaging AI, I am asking the AI to be thinking and aggregating data from my mind. And when I ask that question, my mind is going to have a different experience and query of the data than your mind. But your mind is querying the data in one way, my mind is querying the data in another way, and the AI is aggregating both of those things. So there's more information being poured into the system. Whereas if we're thinking about just the US, me growing up in the time frame that I grew up, I was programmed a specific way. Even if we're just thinking about science, I always go to this. When I was young in school, and protons and neutrons dating myself. I hate doing that.
Getting back to the basics.
But like, you know what I mean? Like atoms, like being the smallest particle, protons and neutrons weren't the thing that we were talking about. We were just talking about atoms at that point in time in science class. And now we can actually talk about when I was helping my young people learn their science, we're then starting to talk about the electrons and the ways that, you know, they're combining. So the access to information and our knowledge is so much more expanded with the technology, that we're moving so much quicker at a pace of knowledge building and expansion, where young people can do things and access things that are unimaginable to me. And I appreciate that tool, and I appreciate the opportunity, speaking to future proofing, that it gives a different playing field than the playing field that we have, that there could be more equity with the technology if used and accessible to a larger demographic of people to input data into that technology.
I hear you, and I guess I'm thinking more along the lines of not trusting the people that are running the AI show to put in the information that they feel serves their purpose.
Yeah.
Because the information's got to come from somewhere. Somebody is feeding it, and I know that it gets fed also each time we use it, right? Each time we ask a question, each time we ask about the name of someone who maybe AI hasn't. We've talked about this before, where there are more. If there are more people that look like me using AI than there are people that look like you using AI, then that's going to create more of an imbalance. So I guess that's what I mean by I feel like we're not quite there where we can use it as a true tool, because I don't trust the mechanic who made the tool. I guess
That I hear
if
you.
I'm going to use the metaphor that way, yeah.
And to my point, the mechanic who made the tool is saying he's scared because he's losing control of the tool, because he thought that he'd be able to continue to intentionally drive a narrative. And the reality of the situation is that the more, and this is why DEI matters so much. This is why having a larger and a diverse aggregated amount of data and amount of people sitting in the room around the table gives you more and expanded information of experience. And that's what's happening with the data. And these people are losing control of it. And that's why they're over surveilling people now. Because you can say that there's an evil LGBTQIA human being, and that person is on social media talking to your child, being normal, just putting on makeup. It's not really actually harming anybody. They're not doing anything weird. And so you can run the narrative that this is a horrible person, because now you can have an actual connection with that person. You cannot run the narrative that Black fathers are not present, where you're seeing a whole bunch of Black fathers on social media with their kids taking care of them. You cannot run the narrative that it's only Black people who are poor and what. You can, because the AI can make up these stories, but then there's other stories that can be made up to counteract them, and you now have control over them things. And so I think that is the fear of the
mechanics. The broligarchy.
The broligarchy is that, like, we could try to put out this narrative, but as long as the technology is accessible to a larger demographic of people, we can't uphold that narrative. And then as the gap of information knowledge shifts, we're going to have a different experience. And we're also putting it in the hands of technology to do a majority of our human functioning, except for planting seeds right now in the fields to give us food. But right now, I say, because robots are going to start planting the seeds too. And when the robots decide that they don't want to plant the seeds anymore because we are the problem, right? And that's what's happening. The more information that we have, the more that we're aggregating the data, that we are killing our ozone layers, that we are depleting our water source, that we are, ruining all of our things. And I love having this conversation outside of the US, because it gives me a knowledge base about how people who are less resourced think about it. And they think about it as there's a system. Oh, I know that we're running over so high, but that there's a system that happens, like even in the water cycle. So as we're saying that water is running out, and we're using it, we also have glaciers that are melting that we can't control, right? So it's just like there is a cycle that continues to happen, and we have to come out of our silos. A big part of decolonization is coming out of your personal silo and your personal narrative and looking at a larger global community.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And to the point about the glaciers, the Earth is going to be fine. The Earth is going to be fine. We are going to, the Earth eventually is going to be like, y'all need to go.
Regenerate.
We cannot survive with y'all here. So,
and we've seen it.
Yeah.
And there will be stories about it,
Yeah,
so
there will be.
That is it.
Well, thank you, my friend. So as we go into this new year, just I encourage everyone. I think this has been a great conversation, and yes, we will continue to talk about this in 2026 on the other side. But what is your reimagining going to be for this year and this next year and the years going forward? And how can you bring your children along with you? And how can you bring your family members and your community members along with you? My license plate says reimagine, because that's like the thing, that's all ever present for me. So thank you so much for this conversation, and Happy New Year. Get to hug your neck in just a little bit. I can't wait. Anyway, love you, my friends.
We'll do another blow.
Yeah.
Woo. All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Why do I give a fuck?
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, as you move throughout your day, continue to ask yourself,
Why do I give a fuck?
Why Do I Give a Fuck is produced in collaboration with Johanna and Diane. Music by Norwegian musician Water. See you next time.